looks like this is home for the night. Goddamn wind.
Clarence? Local officials have declared a statewide emergency as these unprecedented storms continue to rage.
Sure. Got a bus full of prisoners heading our way. Got caught in the storm and need a place to hunker down until it's safe.
Want you on your best behavior while we're here.
Let's get a few things straight. You're in my house now. I will not hesitate to shoot you if I have to.
Y'all don't think this is cruel and unusual right here?
You hear that?
Can you please tell me how an alligator got in your damn police station?
Storm brought him in. Could be infested with him by now.
If you want to survive the night, we're gonna have to find a way to get along.
Keep an eye on him.
That's a bona fide cop killer right there. We're all gonna get eaten alive. Shoot this boy!
You got one shot, Sheriff.
I hear it tastes like chicken.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom? How goes it?
Greetings and salutations, Gator Wrestlers. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Arms are a little sore from wrestling all these gators, but otherwise I'm doing okay.
The nice barrel rolls.
Ha!
To get taken under. Oh, man. As always, it's Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right, so today we're talking about a movie that I have a guess that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of, or maybe they haven't had a chance to see it yet, but it's called The Flood, and as you guessed, there's a killer gator in it. Thus our opening comments on wrestling gators. But let's see, the IMDb on synopsis on IMDb goes as follows: a daring jailbreak during a dangerous Louisiana hurricane is interrupted by a horde of large, hungry alligators. I know we don't always list off like all the cast and crew, but it should be noted that Dean is the lead in this. It's just kind of notable because for a lower budget movie, sometimes you luck out and get a recognizable name, and that is with this one. But does that matter overall when it comes to the movie? Does it anything for it? We'll find out now with our general thoughts. So, Venom, what did you think of The Flood?
I actually had a pretty decent time with this movie. Going into it, I knew it was going to be kind of a low budget, nature run amok type film with probably some questionable CGI, and it didn't disappoint. But I think because I curbed my expectations a little bit, I actually had a pretty decent time with this movie. Now, bad CGI notwithstanding, I actually liked a lot of this movie. I thought there was some decent gunplay. Not great, you're not getting 007 or Mission Impossible quality gunfights by any stretch, but I thought for what they had to work with, they did a pretty good job. The setting was cool, kind of a dilapidated police station in the middle of Louisiana, or I think they mentioned southern Louisiana. So I thought the setting was good. I thought I had no issues with the performances. Like with these lower budget horror films, especially when they have a lot of unrecognizable names, you tend to get some questionable performances. I'm not saying anything in here is Oscar worthy by any stretch of the imagination, but for what you're being presented with, I thought the performances were fine. I didn't really cringe or roll my eyes at any line deliveries. The badass prisoners were badass prisoners, just like they needed to be. The idiot guards and sheriff deputies were exactly what you would expect. Ultimately, I would probably say, as I've already kind of mentioned, the biggest weakness of this is going to be the CGI. Not to say that it's all terrible, not by any stretch. I've seen a lot worse. Hell, Aquarium of the Dead was just like a year or two ago, and this blows that movie away. So I feel like the filmmakers here are really relying on people not understanding gators and the way that they act, because the gators here were incredibly aggressive, and they did this thing that real life gators just don't do, where they would open their mouths and snap their mouths at the humans. And it's like, real gators don't do that. For those who don't know, it takes a lot of energy. A gator exerts a lot of energy to open his mouth and then snap it shut. It's a lot for them. And if you watch real gators, they don't do that much in real life. They're not just snapping their jaws at people and animals to scare them. It's like, no, if they're opening their mouth, it's because they're about to get something to eat. I feel like sometimes the CGI, like the gators, I don't want to say that they don't look real, but their skin looks too soft. Like gators and reptiles in general should be some of the easiest thing for like CGI artists to recreate, because they don't, a gator doesn't have a facial expression. They can't change facial expressions. They don't smile. They don't roll their eyes. They don't do a lot of, stupid shit that humans do. So it should be pretty easy. But man, the CGI in here, sometimes the gators look soft, like they look gooey. I don't mean wet. Wet is obvious. But I mean, like, their skin looks soft. Like, you could almost see it, like, jiggling as they move. And it took me out of it every now and then. I don't want to harp about the CGI too much because, like I said, low-budget horror film, you get what you pay for. But ultimately, CGI aside, I thought there were some decent kills. We get some good limb severing and, people being attacked underwater and above water. Obviously, the ones above water, because of the CGI, maybe don't look great. But ultimately, I thought this movie was a lot better than the community does. I mean, this movie's sitting on a 3.3 on IMDb right now. I think it's way better than a 3.3. If I had to score it, I would give it a much higher score than that. It's shot well. The score is fine. Cinematography, it's raining and wet the entire fucking movie. At the end of the movie, we get a tiny little respite from the storm, and, you get like a clear sky scene in beautiful Louisiana. But ultimately, I feel like if you curb your expectations a little bit and, you're not getting Crawl. Obviously, Alexander Aja's amazing film that came out of nowhere a few years ago. This is nothing like Crawl, but I still had a good time with it. Like I said, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate the time that I spent with it. Obviously, I wish the CG was a little bit better. It might have taken me out of the film a little bit less. But ultimately, for whatever it's worth, I do also wish the finale was a little bit more exciting. The finale kind of fizzles out a little bit, in my opinion. Like, it could have definitely been a lot more exciting. In fact, the human element of the finale was better than the alligator element of the finale, which is kind of disappointing. Because when you see this trailer, you're sitting down to watch a gator movie. That's what you're expecting. And the human drama definitely takes up a large part of this film. It's almost a kaiju movie in the sense that we only get sporadic shots of the gators here and there, but it's the human drama that kind of drives the majority of the film. And I like the human drama in this one. I thought all of our actors do a pretty good job. I was invested in the story. I was invested to see which of these pieces of shit was going to get eaten by the gator next, or, if any of them were going to survive, blah, blah, blah. So, for what it is, I had a good time with it. Like I said, it's not Crawl. It's not even 1980s Alligator, but if you're willing to accept it, I think you'll have a good time with it. That's it for now.
All right. Let's kick it over to Don for your general thoughts on The Flood.
Yeah, I had just as much fun with this one. Probably a little bit more so just because this one fell right into my wheelhouse. I mean, just old school shitty CGI just all over the place. I was in heaven with this. I mean, yeah, it looks terrible in places, but Yeah, this just brought me back to a lot of the old school stuff that everybody kind of makes fun of me for. But yeah, it was just really fun to go back and have this kind of a really really crappy CGI just in a film that took itself way too seriously for it to be that kind of schlocky, goofy fun. I do agree. I do think the characters here are better than what you would expect them to be. I do think that there's a lot more going on in the human drama than you would expect. Some of the double crosses and reveals kind of play itself out a little bit unrealistically. Like some of the plans don't always make any sense, and you don't always understand why the characters change allegiances just as flimsily as they do. But even aside from that, I still have a lot of fun with it. I mean, the central plan is decent enough for this kind of a thing, getting everybody together in this rundown location that's cut off from everything just because of the location being damaged, and then you get the storm all overriding everything. Kind of adds a fun little sense of atmosphere to everything, and you get just enough gunplay, just enough creature attacks. The fact that they actually end up and they do mentioning further, you mentioned the unrealistic action. I want to add on the realistic action of a lot of the deaths actually taking place through the gator roll, which I don't really see often enough in these kinds of films. Like Venom said, the constant snapping is just something gators don't do. I mean, you'll see them when they watch them. They actually don't even open their mouths at all until like they are practically right on top of somebody, and even then, you don't even really see them. They always used to tell you that the easiest thing to do to prevent a gator attack is to just pinch it with your index finger and your thumb and just stick that over their snout, and you can generally prevent an attack by doing that, because like he said, there's not a lot of strength in their jaws to open, but there's far more to snap it shut. So that's why he was, you're saying that they don't snap their jaws frequently, because it takes a lot of action to do that, and it's not something that they, have just pent up aggression to just constantly snap and bite and bare their teeth at you, just to kind of give you a little real life biology and gator action there. So I'm not just sharks people. I actually do know about other aquatic sea creatures. But the idea of them doing the gator roll, yeah, that was just great. You get to see them, breaking bodies and just seeing them rolling all over the floor, changing dimensions and sizes and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to see that. Yeah, the finale is kind of a wet fart on everything. It does kind of take a lot of the oomph out of everything, but yeah, I had a lot more fun with this one than a lot of other more modern creatures features do. Should it have been a little bit goofier to kind of play into just how bad the CGI was? Maybe a better finale probably would have raised this a little. Another week rendering the creatures a little bit more could have improved the film a little bit, but as it stands, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's the old school cheesy creature features that I really like. So yeah, much like Venom, I had more fun with this than I probably should have, but I really enjoyed it. So yeah, this was a fun time.
Okay, here comes Mike to bring down the mood.
Well, guys, all I'll say is I didn't like it as much as you guys, but I still had a fun time with it. I mean, I knew what it was. It was an interesting decision to give us a full shot of full alligator body CGI opening. I think Don even mentioned it to me, like, when we first decided to do this. He's like, don't let the opening CGI deter you. Because at other parts of the movie, especially when the gators were in the water, I thought it looked okay. Like, obviously, a lower budget movie, they're going to be working with certain constraints. But I thought there were multiple times in the movie where the CGI didn't bother me nearly as much. It was just kind of funny that, like, they put that scene at the beginning where you clearly see, like, the the constraints there. But overall, I mean, for this type of movie, I thought it delivered on what it was trying to be. You know, it gives us plenty of like filler characters, which is good for a creature. Well, I guess you guys would be the experts on that over me, but for me, I like that in a creature feature, because if I'm watching a movie about any type of killer animal or monster, I want it to kill people. Like I want to see that. That's part of the fun of these movies, is seeing what these beasts can do. So as soon as like we started getting like multiple characters in different groups and factions, I'm like, oh, like I know a lot of these guys are just kind of henchmen there to get ripped apart later, and it mostly did happen throughout the movie. Other than that, yeah, obviously it has the constraints of being lower budget, so it's going to run into different issues there. But for the most part, I kind of feel like if you read the description for the movie, I mean, the fact that Casper Van Dien's in it, I don't know why, but he's tended to like be in a lot of lower budget stuff in the last decade or so. So to me, if you're throwing this on to begin with, you're already going to have a good idea of like the kind of movie and the type of movie it is. And if you're okay with that going in, I would say it delivers on that aspect. Obviously, these are the movies, like not creature features period, but like the lower budget creature features. Like this is probably, I'd say, a little higher budget than Asylum, but not by a ton. That specific brand of creature features I don't usually flock to, but anyone that does, I think this is a perfectly serviceable movie. I actually had fun with the scenes with the alligators. I cracked up every time an alligator got someone and did a barrel roll in like the shallowest of shallow water. It was hilarious.
Well, the best one was at the beginning. I mean, that gator did a barrel roll on concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. That was great. I love that. I mean, yeah, giving that sequence away. That's what I was saying. I mean, ignore the beginning, give the film a chance, but I mean, it's going to be kind of hard to get past the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get Asylum vibes from this. I mean, it's too serious to be an Asylum film.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like what I was saying about it kind of being, a little bit too serious. That kind of clashes with this goofy CGI.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, if you're thinking Asylum, it's probably a rung above them. Like it's not. Like he was saying, it's not something like Aquarium of the Dead or any of their Sharknado films. It feels a little bit more serious than that, but the CGI would kind of place it in those realms, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I would put this up above an Asylum film, even a high quality Asylum film. I think this one stands head and shoulders above those, but I'm going to slightly disagree with Don, though I understand Don's point about maybe being a little bit goofy with the acting because of the CGI. I actually appreciated that the actors and the filmmakers took the material a little bit more seriously. I think they understood that the CGI was going to be a limitation, and that they were going to have to try to rely on making the mood and the tension as serious as possible. And whether they succeeded or not is obviously up to the individual, but yeah, I appreciated it. I like the fact that they took it a little bit more seriously, for whatever it's worth, and that's probably why I would hold this above an Asylum film. That's just me personally. Obviously, Don likes a lot more fun and goofiness with his creature features. Nothing wrong with that, obviously. I appreciate when they take seriously. Go ahead, Mike.
I like the fact that we get a bit of like confined space horror in this, because it kind of takes place in the prison, underneath the prison. I like the fact that there's like almost like a siege aspect to it, because you have outside groups coming in. I like the mix of different groups with different interests. I like how like the prisoners, when everyone starts showing up, the prisoners like, oh yeah, we're gonna get free now, and like that's not exactly the objective of what's going on. And you have different objectives from different groups, and then once they become hunted by the alligator, some alliance, regretful alliances are formed that don't always turn out the best way. But I think like the makers of this movie, at least like they did a good job on what they could control. Like sometimes with your budget, that's just out of your control. Like they did the best that they could work with. But as far as like understanding a lot of the story elements you want in these types of movies, if you're going for more serious, right, as opposed to like the ones Dawn prefers, but if you're going for like a more serious tone and story and characters, I give them credit because it's like they understood how to form that. Because a lot of times with lower budget stuff, that's one of the main issues that I end up having is it's like there's issues actually constructing a fleshed out story in 3 acts. But this one, I almost want to see what they can do with like a larger budget now, because they did well enough with this that I'd be curious to see what they make next.
I think they're doing a film that's in festival runs now called Black Mass. I think that's what it's called.
Sounds like a gangster movie.
No, it's a horror film. I actually know one of the actresses in the film, and that's what they're promoting currently. I mean, they're promoting both, but I think that's the one that they're going for next, is something called Black Mass.
Nice. One thing I do want to say is this is the second low-budget horror film in the last 5 years starring Casper Van Dien that I was actually surprised by. Do you guys remember? I'm not sure if Don would remember, but Mike should, from 2018, a movie called Darkness Reigns. You and
I remember that.
I actually thought that movie was like surprisingly good. Like, again, I went in, I mean, within the first couple of minutes, you can see it's low budget, not a lot of quality to the filmmaking, blah, blah, blah. But once the antagonists actually start to show up, the spirits and everything in that hotel, I actually really, really liked it. And I remember loving the ending of that movie too. Despite the final creature kind of looking a little goofy, I actually really enjoyed it. And here it is again, Casper Van Dien in a low-budget horror film that I expected nothing from, and I actually get some quality out of it. I'm actually really happy about that. And if you guys haven't seen Darkness Reigns, everyone listening, I would say check it out. It's found footage, fair warning. And
it's found footage?
Yeah, wasn't that found footage?
Wait, hold on. Wait. Hold on. Which Rains are you talking about? Is it spelled like a title rain, or is it like a raining blood thing?
Yeah, raining blood. Like
is it spelled
REIGN.
Oh,
yeah,
it's spelled like rain. That kind of a rain?
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, maybe I haven't seen it then.
It took place in a hotel. I don't know if Mike remembers it. We reviewed it for Jason Lloyd's Bloody Bits back in 2018. So we did
I vaguely remember it.
Yeah. We just did like a quickie 5 to 8 minute little review on it for Jason Lloyd's show. But like I said, I just, because Casper Van Dien is not a guy that I expect much from, especially in 2023. It's like, I see his name on a marquee. It's not exactly something I'm going to rush out to see, unless it's a Starship Troopers movie or something. But, it's... so when I see his name, I instantly am like, It's kind of like seeing Lance Hendrickson. It's Lance Hendrickson's name now. You see his name on a poster, you get excited, and then you watch the movie, and it's just not great.
We call it the Lin Shaye effect.
I'll go with that. I will absolutely go with that.
Now to her credit. Now,
Mm-hmm.
to Lin Shaye's credit, at least she's still also getting some major motion picture appearances along with like the lower budget stuff. Maybe the Barbara Crampton effect, although she's been in some good stuff.
Yeah. So. Hey, don't say Crampton. That's my friend. But I mean, the listeners, you guys kind of know what I'm talking about. You see a classic, horror person's name on a poster, you get mildly excited, like maybe a Heather Langenkamp something like that. But then you watch the movie and it's like, oh, somebody needed money. Okay, which is fine. Hey, we all got to eat. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That Casper Van Dien is actually like batting. He's got a pretty good batting average with me right now. Granted, I don't watch a lot of his movies. Obviously, if I'm assigned to watch it for a show, but for whatever it's worth, this is the second one in 5 years that I was very surprised by the quality of it. So I want to at least point that out. I don't know. Anything else before we go into a walkthrough? I guess more of a swim through for this one.
A barrel roll through.
God, the death rolls.
I think that's it. I mean, obviously coming into this, like before we don't tend to do a lot of like discussing a movie before we record. We kind of go in with fresh thoughts, no pun intended, but it was easy to assume that like out of the three of us, I would like it the least, and that's it sounds like it is the case, but even with that said, I still enjoyed it. So like in my general thoughts, even though I wasn't necessarily like hyping it up, I still thought it was like a pretty serviceable low budget creature feature. So I would still recommend it like for people once it becomes available, whatever people subscribe to. And
yeah, I think it's
especially,
still. That's what I'm saying. I think it's
it
still
definitely has
just,
a niche crowd. Yeah.
I'm saying I think it's still just on general VOD. It's not on any main platform yet, right?
Nope.
Because I haven't seen it on any of the usual suspects. I think it's still just
$6.99 too. That's a little steep. $6.99 for this? Okay.
I mean, 3 or 4 maybe, but
exactly, yeah. Oh, $5 all day long. $4.99, $3.99, yeah, but $6.99, that's a little steep.
Yeah,
I mean
maybe.
that's probably a quarter of the movie's budget. Come on now.
But yeah, I mean, it's not on general services yet, but yeah.
But if anybody's interested, you can rent it on VOD and on all VOD platforms. I've seen it advertised on at least 6 different ones. Prime, Vimeo, blah 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 blah. So yeah, anything else before we get into it?
I'm good, yeah.
All right, this shouldn't be much of a very long walkthrough. I mean, it's an alligator movie that's set in a single location, so we can all kind of guess where the hell the movie's going. Our movie basically opens up with a storm. There's a major hurricane going through Louisiana. We see 2 people, a man and a woman, run into like a warehouse type room, just kind of like a utility room. They start to close it off and board up the doors if they can, to protect themselves from the storm. They're obviously not friends. They're strangers. They're still kind of introducing themselves. And then at one point, the door swings open magically, like they got fucking ghosts or something. Of course, the guy goes to the door to reclose it. He starts up a conversation with the girl in the process of doing that. And then we see something grab him from outside. We don't see what, but we see just him basically get dragged out the door and away from the building. The girl's left there by herself. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. And then finally we see an alligator come in through the same open door. And yeah, like Mike said earlier, Mike or Don, I don't remember who, but like one of them said earlier, I mean, we see the entire gator right from the start. Like there's no side shots or back shots or just shots of its feet or whatever. It's just in all of its glory, just bam, there it is. And I think that may do a disservice to the movie. Because, obviously, we've already discussed the weak CGI throughout the film, and this cold open is definitely the weakest CGI in the movie. So Don's statement of if you can get past the cold open, you should be able to finish the movie is 100% valid, because I was really laughing through this whole scene, I love my creature features, and I try to take them as seriously as possible. But the opening scene, like these are the worst 2 actors in the movie. These unnamed guy and girl in the cold open just are the worst. And then, like I said, Gator walks in. The girl tries to get away from the Gator. She actually stabs the Gator in the eye with a piece of wood. Good on her. Unfortunately, the Gator is able to get the upper hand and, basically takes her out. And this is when the gator does the death roll. For those who don't know, gators, once they lock onto their prey, will generally do a barrel roll. And there's one of two purposes for that. One would be if they're in the water, to drown their victim, assuming that they attacked something that's not waterbound. And then the other reason is to just get pieces of the animal off of it. Like if it attaches to your arm, it's going to do a barrel roll to try to rip your arm off so that it can eat your arm whole, blah, blah, blah. So this one, it looked kind of weird because the gator was already had her in his clutches. He already had his leg in her mouth. But then he does the barrel roll, but instead of her leg breaking off, which I think they missed an opportunity here. They should have had her leg break off. Instead, they do the fucking cartoon thing where she spins with the gator, and the gator spins so fast that it almost looks like a cartoon. Like, easily the worst part of the movie. It's funny as hell, don't get me wrong. It's entertaining as shit. But, yeah, again, if the leg would have just broken off, I think it would have just looked a lot better, and it would have given us a nice little bit of gore in the beginning, because ultimately the cold open doesn't really have much gore. But anyway, once our girl is dispatched, we go to our opening credits, our title card, and then we are transported to a bus, and a bus that's on the road. It's basically driving through this storm. And it's a penitentiary bus. It's a bus going towards a prison to be potentially the final stop for these 5 criminals. We are introduced to all 5 of them. I'm not going to get into introducing them all. They're all badasses in one way or another. You've got your Nazi skinhead. You've got, your black guy, former gang member. You've got your big scary guy that looks like he could crush a human skull. What else? You got the one local guy, the one guy from Louisiana called Big Jim, who really, really leans into that Louisiana accent throughout this entire movie. I don't want to say that this actor is doing an accent. I mean, he legitimately could be from that region. It's not like I know the accent very well, but after a while, it definitely felt very forced at times. And then the 5th member of the criminal menagerie is a guy named Russell. That is our boy, Casper Van Dien. And, he may have a different story from some of these other criminals on the bus. So, like I said, 5 criminals, 2 guards on the bus. They are caught in the storm. They realize that there's no way they're going to make it to their destination today. So they decide to pull over at the closest police station that they can find. And that turns out to be this particular police station. I forget the name of it. I think it was like Latree or something like that. Latree, Louisiana. But basically they make a distress call to the police station, let them know their situation. The deputy actually answers the call and tells them, yeah, okay, go ahead and come on over. Deputy's kind of a younger guy, maybe late 20s, early 30s, but he's very obviously the deputy. He's got that kind of goofy attitude where he wishes he was in charge, but he isn't. And we are then introduced to our sheriff, Sheriff Joe, who is a female, a beautiful female as well, a tall blonde lady, who obviously, of course, is causing a lot of stir between the inmates. They're all talking about what they're going to do to her if they get a hold of her, blah, 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 just like any good criminal would. Eventually, they are put into holding cells and basically are told, we're just going to have to wait out the storm here. While this is all happening, our sheriff sent one of her other deputies to go downstairs to basically sandbag the back door so that water wouldn't come flooding into the precinct. Of course, he never did it, so she orders him to go do it again. And this is where we get our first alligator attack in the police station. And this guy, goddamn it, why do we have, how does a guy that fat become a cop? How desperate does a city or a town need to be to have a guy like that as a cop? I'm sorry.
I think it's
don't
probably
have a lot to choose from.
I think it's probably just kind of playing into that, Sheriff Gleason thing from like Smokey and the
Yes.
Bandit or something.
Absolutely, you are. He is absolutely comic relief, and sadly, he's only mildly comical. More of the better comedy comes from our inmates, but we'll get to that. So while he's down in the basement, looking for the sandbag so that he can sandbag the back door, he finds out that the basement is already flooded, like the water's already waist deep. Of course, he goes down in there, trying to see if he can get those sandbags out of there, which are all submerged underwater. And of course, we see one of our little gator buddies coming into the room in the basement that our deputy is in. Of course, we get a couple of false starts, if you will, a couple of false jump scares. Eventually, the gator does actually grab him by the arm, rip his arm off, and swallow it, which was actually it all happened underwater, so this kill looked really cool. Like I said, once we get past the cold open, the kills do start to look a lot better. They tend to hide the gators more in darkness and underwater more so that the CGI looks a little bit better. So yeah, there's our fat deputy is now gone, dispatched. Now, the other thing that I forgot to mention is that with all of this happening, there is another group involved here, and they look to be a mercenary group. For some reason, they had a plan to take out that bus. We don't quite know why at this point in the movie, but it's very obvious. They're all armed to the teeth, military weapons, high-grade weapons, and their plan was to take out that bus. Obviously, with the intention of probably freeing one or all of the inmates on the bus. But because of the storm, the bus had to take a detour to this police station instead of continuing its way to the prison. So they being the mercenaries, then follow the bus to the police station. And they don't rush the police station right away. They kind of sit in the car and argue for a little bit. And finally, after our deputy is taken out, we start hearing gunshots upstairs, and our sheriff and deputy go up there, and what they find is that there's a group of people outside the police station just indiscriminately shooting into the police station, just bullets flying in. Luckily, no one is hit right away from these all bullets that are getting shot in, but then eventually the shooting stops. And our perpetrators come into the police station, and I believe there are 4 of them total, right? Yeah, Rafe is the leader. We got 1 female, and then we got 2 other like badass type military guys with them. So yeah, a total of 4. We also noticed that when they're following the bus to the police station, they've got a trailer hitch behind them with a couple of jet skis on it. So obviously they've got a plan enacted or ready to go. Like I said, once the shooting stops, they enter the police station. They yell out, "Anybody still alive? Who's here?" Eventually, the sheriff does start to speak with the leader. His name is Rafe. Rafe basically asks him, asks the sheriff how many people are here. How many guards were with the bus? Blah 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 blah. Like just trying to assess the situation and figure out how many people they have to deal with. Eventually, one of the idiot guards from the bus hears the gunfire upstairs and decides to come up. He ends up walking upstairs just as Rafe and the sheriff are talking. They're obviously both behind barricades because the sheriff doesn't want to get shot. And they're just kind of talking, trying to figure out, what's going to happen. Rafe is kind of in the middle of giving them instructions, drop your weapons, come out, no one will be hurt, blah, 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 if you comply. But this idiot bus guard, Elkins, was his name Elkins? I think it was Elkins. Anyway, yeah, there it is. It's Elkins. Basically, he comes upstairs in the middle of the conversation, realizes that there's a terrorist situation happening, and for some reason, he thinks he's Rambo because out of nowhere, he basically winks at the sheriff, who he's been hitting on the entire time since he's been here, by the way, and basically tries to be Rambo and jump out into the room and take out the paramilitary guys. And obviously he gets punked and just gets shot. He does end up getting one shot off, and it hits one of the criminals in the neck, one of the mercenary guys in the neck. It looks pretty bad. I mean, it's not like a grazing shot. It looks like they got him dead center neck. So he's not looking too good. Eventually, everybody gets together. Once the sheriff and her deputy kind of relinquish their weapons and they come out, Rafe takes everybody and goes down to the holding cells. And at the holding cells is where, this is where we get our introduction, or actually the introduction scene was earlier, which I did enjoy, where all 5 of the perps kind of, are introduced by the sheriff, what their crimes were, what kind of jail time they're looking at, whether it's life without parole, blah, blah, blah. And basically, while she's down there, the female mercenary basically wants to take out all the cameras. There's surveillance cameras in the police station. Now, the sheriff and the deputy both claim that the cameras don't work, that they were washed out, days ago, and that, those cameras don't work. Of course, the military guys, being smarter than your average cop, don't believe them. So Rafe has the female mercenary take the sheriff to the area, where the surveillance is done and where everything is recorded, blah, blah, blah. And when they get there, they get to the same room where the deputy, the fat deputy, got taken out by the gator. He's nowhere to be found, but they see that the water is already waist deep. And she convinces, or the sheriff convinces the mercenary that, see, there's the cables for the surveillance, and they're all cut and broken, and they're underwater, and blah, blah, blah. So, the mercenary is convinced that, okay, fine, the cameras aren't working. But then just as they're leaving, the sheriff sees the deputy's flashlight underwater. And she's like, why is there a flashlight there? Like, still on. So she goes into the room, much, to her chagrin. She goes into the room. She bends down to pick up the flashlight, which, like I said, is still on. When she pulls the flashlight out of the water, the deputy's arm is still attached to it. The arm is severed, but, it's still grasping the flashlight. So that must be the other arm, the one that the gator didn't eat, apparently. So, when they pull up the arm, they both scream and kind of splash around a little bit. And later in the movie, from the local criminal, the one guy, Big Jim from Louisiana, he lets people know, oh, if you splash, it's going to get their attention. So obviously a gator ends up coming down to the basement. This is when the female mercenary first sees a gator. Like, no one even knows there's gators around yet. Obviously, when the sheriff pulls that arm up from the water, she realizes there's something going on here. But then they see the gator come down the stairs and into the water. Bothered the shit out of me how long it took the female mercenary to start shooting. Like, she literally waited till the gator submerged himself underwater and then started shooting. It's like, he's literally 5 feet away from you on the stairs. Just empty a clip into him. But nope, she waited. And of course, she ends up getting taken out. Gator, and actually there's two, at this point there's 2 gators down there. Apparently the gator that killed the deputy was still down there the whole time, but probably because he was so full from eating such a fat human being that he didn't attack the sheriff when she first walked in there. But then the second gator came in through the door. And then when the sheriff runs away back up the stairs, we see the 2 gators munching on the female mercenary. Man, these gators are really well fed. I'm surprised they're so aggressive, because they got to be just full of human meat. But there you go. Okay, so at this point, it is now official. The sheriff knows that there are gators in the police station. She believes that there's 4 of them as of right now, but, she obviously doesn't know exactly how many. This is when Rafe, the leader of the mercenaries, basically has the sheriff release his guy, and it's Casper Van Dien's character, Russell. Basically, Rafe and the mercenaries are there to free Russell. it seems like almost like they're friendly, but then once they actually start talking to each other, you realize they're not friends. Rafe is breaking Russell out for some nefarious reason that we don't know about yet. So at this point, we get some back and forth. We get some splitting up. Obviously, we get a bunch of different scenes of different splinter groups splintering off and trying to find different ways out of the building. I'm not going to go through every single scene. Like I said, it's a wild alligator movie. You kind of know what you're in for. Different, like I said, different perps get taken out at different times. Our big Jim, the Louisiana guy, ends up actually wrestling a gator for a good amount of time. Like, I mean, he definitely lasted longer than anybody else, having had experience with Louisiana alligators. And I got to ask Mike a question. Mike, when Big Jim was on top of that gator, did that gator do a goddamn jujitsu reversal? Did you see that shit? He did a goddamn reversal. I couldn't get over it.
Yeah, that gator
Mike's
had
an
some
MMA
moves
guy,
that I admit I haven't seen gators make those kind of moves before, but I was down for it in the movie.
In the context of the movie, it's great, absolutely. Because it seems like Big Jim is going to get the better of this gator. Like I said, he's got him straddled, he's on top of it. And this gator just fucking does the most badass jiu-jitsu reversal I've ever seen. And, of course, ends up taking Big Jim out, sadly, who was one of the more likable criminals. I mean, obviously, Casper Van Dien is the star. He's the one that we're following. Eventually, we do get his story, his actual story. As it turns out, him and Rafe pulled off a job years ago, stole a bunch of money from somewhere. But let's see, Russell was the getaway driver. And in the process of putting the money in the car from wherever it was they were stealing it, police showed up and started firing. So Russell literally just takes off. He's the getaway driver, but he forgot to wait for anybody to get into his car. He ends up just driving off with the money still in the car. He ends up taking the money or he hides it. He stashes it, as he says. And then he decides, okay, let's go back. I'm going to go to the rendezvous point, basically where we were supposed to meet if shit hit the fan. If the shit eventually hit the fan, we have a rendezvous point. He gets to the rendezvous point, and there's nothing but cops there waiting for him. So, 2 + 2 = 4. Obviously, Rafe and the rest of the gang were pissed off that he took off with the money. They probably figured he was stealing the money, that he was actually taking it for himself and not stashing it until, the heat kind of wore off. So they rat him out. The cops are waiting for him. He ends up going to jail. And in the process of the robbery, Rafe and some of the other mercenaries killed some police officers. They killed multiple police officers. So this guy, Russell, Casper Van Dien, is basically titled a cop killer. Throughout the movie, different people call him cop killer. I don't know how one criminal calling another criminal a cop killer is an insult, but apparently here it is. Yeah, you'd think that would make a criminal a hero to other criminals. Oh, I killed a cop, rock on. Nope, they call him cop killer just the same as anybody else does. So yeah, that's the backstory of Russell. He never tried to deny that he did anything wrong. I mean, he never shot anybody. He didn't go into the establishment that they were robbing. He was just the getaway driver. But of course, he was the only one that got caught. So, he got charged for all the murders of the police officers, eventually got convicted, and now he's in jail. So, that's his story. Eventually, towards the end of the film, Rafe and Russell end up having one last go, where Rafe is basically saying, okay, let's get out of here. To Russell, I've got the keys. I know where the jet skis are. Let's just get the fuck out of here. But at some point in the movie, Russell develops a heart. He starts to feel bad for the sheriff. He tells Rafe, I'm not going to leave her here. I'm not going to leave her here by herself. And he's like, she's a fucking cop. What do you care? She's just going to put you back in jail. And, Russell, being the somewhat good guy that he is just adamant that he's not going to leave the sheriff there. And they get into a fist fight, which is actually a pretty decent little fight for whatever it's worth. While they're fighting, we see the sheriff going back to a part of the police station where there's tanks. There's these propane tanks that propane tank storage, if you will. And basically she's waiting for, she lured a couple of gators to this area. They're chasing her. Once they get within shot, within damage distance of the tanks, she goes ahead and shoots the tanks, which causes a chain reaction explosion throughout the police station. It doesn't destroy the police station by any stretch, but it does some pretty nasty damage. Obviously, it's not going to kill every gator. You're not going to kill every gator in Louisiana with one explosion, let alone the ones that are, just there at the police station. But it does create enough of a distraction that she is able to get out. Obviously, Russell ends up winning his fight with Rafe. Rafe, of course, ends up getting taken out by a gator, towards the end. And then we get our final scene of Russell and the sheriff jet skiing. It's the next morning. The sun is out. It's the first time we've seen nice weather. And we see them jet skiing out to the middle of that river. I guess the Mississippi, right? Runs through Louisiana. Let's see. They basically stop the jet skis and then they just start talking. Russell basically says to the sheriff, I assume you're going to be taking me back to the prison now, blah, blah, blah. She does exactly what we expected her to do. She basically says, well, it looks like I'm going to have to report 5 dead criminals. And, Russell is surprised, because obviously after everything that he's done and he's been accused of, the sheriff is now basically just going to let him go on his merry way. But like I said, they built not a relationship, but they built an understanding throughout the film that Russell wasn't really nearly as bad as any of either the criminals that he was with or the mercenaries who came to break him out, So she makes her judgment call. They go their separate ways down opposite sides of the river. Our movie fades to black, and that is The Flood 2023. Now, obviously, I skipped a lot of action sequences, but as I said, it's an alligator movie. You kind of know what you're getting. It's not like there's going to be a gator in here that pulls out an Uzi or a samurai sword or something. They're fucking gators. And as we've already said, they take the movie rather seriously. So other than that one barrel roll at the beginning of the movie, most of the actions from the CG gators are believable and look pretty decent, actually. When the gator kills the one mercenary who got shot in the neck, that kill actually looked really cool. That was one of the first really cool looking kills of the movie. And there are more. Like I said, I didn't go over every single death. Like I said, there's 5 criminals, 2 guards, 2 sheriff's deputies, and the only survivors of the film are the sheriff and Russell. So a decent little body count.
Better than some of the other films I've seen.
Oh, guaranteed. Even after I was done watching this movie, it's I can see how people are going to pan this movie. And obviously it's got a 3.3 on IMDb, but like I said, I didn't regret my time with it. I don't remember rolling my eyes or cringing at any particular spot in the film. Performances were fine. Dialogue readings were fine. It's really just the CGI. And like Don said, after a while, it just becomes endearing. It just adds to the fun of it. So, just accept it and have fun.
It felt exactly like home. Felt exactly like a lot of the stuff I used to watch.
I do wish they had more real gators in the movie. That's one regret. Because, there are gator wranglers, and there's lots of gators that work in cinema. Obviously, for the kill scenes, you're not going to use the real gators. But I do wish, because even in Crawl, if you remember Alexander Aja's Crawl, there were scenes in that movie with real gators swimming through the water, just kind of chilling on the side. This one, it's just they're all CGI, every single one of them. And that's too bad. That's the only thing that I kind of regret. I would have liked to have seen. Maybe if they had real gators in there, it would have made their CGI gators look even dumber. So maybe that was an aesthetic choice to not have any real gators in there. But, that's just, me wishing more than anything.
Yeah. It's not like they wouldn't have had any access to it. I mean, it was shot in Thailand, so
Oh yeah, lots of. Well, do they have gators or crocs in Thailand?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Maybe because of the fact that they're using Thailand as the filming location, trying to pass it off as Louisiana. I don't know if they would have been able to get their hands on it, considering the
Yeah,
budget.
exactly. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. But yeah, I would say like anyone that throws the movie on, if you're fine with what you see in that opening scene, which is you get a kill right off the bat, you get a decent idea of what the gator is going to look like. If you're not turning it off at that point, I think it all gets better after, including the CGI. The CGI is nothing to write home about. You're not going to be impressed with it necessarily, but I think the opening shot is probably the most, or at least one of the most blatant displays of it in the whole movie. So it does get better.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our discussion on the flood in this episode. So before we get out of here, let's hear what else we got coming up, or already out, or both, combination of both. So Venom, I'll start with you.
Latest episode of the main show is in the can, recorded. We looked at Derek's picks this time, and we looked at 1978's The Manitou and 1981's The Incubus. One was a first-time watch for me and Mike, actually, but it was different which movie it was. But yeah, a really good time with that one. That one ended up being a really quick show. Like we got through what we're watching and the news and everything else in record time. It felt like it was under 2 hours, which would be a minor miracle for the main show. But yeah, check that out once it's available. Mike will probably be able to clue you in on when that might be available. Let's see. No More Room in Hell presents Creature Features, episode 18? I forget my numbers. Yeah, so it's the latest episode of Creature Comforts, where we look at the new Thai creature feature, The Lake, that was released earlier this year. Fun time. Another quick episode, actually, one of the shortest Creature Comforts we've ever done. But yeah, check that out. And my guest spot on the Joe Blow Horror Show still hasn't been released. When it does, I will let everybody know where you can listen to that.
I think they just released episode 1, so yours should be coming up.
Nice. Yep, I'm on the second one. So
yeah.
Next episode, I'll probably be talking about that. So look out for that. And that's pretty much it. No new episode of Crystal Lake Gift Shop yet. And hopefully we'll have a quick turnaround on the main show, since we already know what movies we're doing for the next episode. Fingers crossed the schedules jive and we can get the next episode out sooner than later. But that's it for me.
All right. How about you, Don?
Yeah, as mentioned, latest episode of Creature Comforts is out there. The Lake, which is a fun time. Better than this one. It's a higher end budget. It's a higher end production than this one, but both really fun and definitely enjoyable in their own merits. The guest spot that I have been promising for a long time is available. This is the Road to Nowhere show, where I did 3 Lucio Fulci films, which were all first-time watches for the host of the show. So that was a lot of fun to introduce one of my all-time favorites to him. I have let's hope this one goes better. Hopefully I won't be talking about this one for a while at least. But I did a impromptu guest spot on a friend's show. This one is Podcast in the Woods, and I did an impromptu guest spot on Terrified. I absolutely had a fun time with that one. And this is the Argentinian film, not the Killer Clown slasher, just to make sure no wires are crossed. But I'm pretty sure that Venom, you were going to be absolutely in love with it, because I was the weakest one and I called it sick. So
I fucking adore that movie. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm the weakest one on there, and I call it a must-watch. So nice. That should give you any idea of the well-deserved and well-regarded infatuation with that one. And then the last ones, again, I'm still waiting on Stu World Order to drop, which I don't know when, but hopefully, fingers crossed, sooner rather than later, because Road to Nowhere came out, and I promised you that one would. So I'm promising you that one will come out as well. And finally, for my main show, which is actually kind of fun in that the 69th episode in the feed is my top 10 zombie films. So unplanned and not necessarily one that I had any intention of scheduling around, but it was just one of those where I realized, hey, I've got 68 episodes in the feed, and the next one is on zombies. So there you go. But yeah, there's 2 other bonus episodes in the feed, so it's not episode 69, but it's the 69th episode in the feed. So yeah, the latest episode is my top 10 zombie films, which is a subject near and dear to my heart because I actually like those more than sharks, if you can believe it. But yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff on my end.
All right. As far as I go, Venom mentioned most of it right then. The main show is recorded, episode 54. I'll probably... Actually, no, I know I will be working on this weekend, and since it's a weekend that I'll be doing it and not a weeknight, I should be able to get it done and have it out early next week. A lot of the times I do it on weeknights, so like I'll spread the editing out over a couple days, but whichever day I don't go see Oppenheimer, I'll probably get started on it and complete it. So look for that next week.
Mike's not going to go see Oppenheimer. He's very clearly going to see Barbie.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we had a double release, so I have a cover excuse.
There you go.
What else? I actually am scheduled. Well, not scheduled yet, but I am doing the Joe Blow Horror Show for a different Resident Evil movie in the franchise. And if any of our listeners are familiar with Carly from Slumber Party Massacre, I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what other show I was going to say. But she's on the same episode as me, so it's just a matter of all of us scheduling a time in for that. So that'll be somewhere in the future. And that's it for me. The main show looks like the next picks are mine in the rotation, so I'm pretty sure what they're going to be. So we don't usually announce that on here though, but hopefully we'll get that out. We have like only 1 week left in July after this week, so I'm guessing it'll probably be early August that we record it. And then, as long as we can stick to that, maybe we'll get a second episode of it out in August. But until then, hopefully you'll enjoy the new episode of that. As far as Fresh Cuts goes, will be one more episode without the theater, because Talk to Me comes out next week, but that'll be the following episode. So
there is a film, and this is another one of those situations where it might only be playing in LA, but there is a movie opening at the AMC theaters out here this weekend called Cobweb. I know nothing about it.
One?
I have no idea. I was just looking through the AMC app, but that opens this weekend.
Earlier. Yeah, I was talking to Lacey earlier, and she mentioned that because sometimes she'll ask, "Oh, what are you guys doing on the next Fresh Cuts?" And I'm like, I don't know yet. I was like, because there's not like a major theatrical release, but she told me about that. Briefly, tried to Google screens here, and it looked like it wasn't giving me anything for my zip code. So I'll look again to double. But if not, then we'll have to find something on VOD again.
I mean, it's playing at multiple AMCs out here. I mean, obviously that holds no bearing to the rest of the country, but if it's playing near you, I mean, I might go see it anyway, just because it's theatrical horror. And I'm not ultra excited about next week, because next week we actually have 2 theatrical openings, Talk to Me and Haunted Mansion. And I know Haunted Mansion is a Disney movie, but this one looks like it's taking the material much more seriously than the last Haunted Mansion movie and with the Wayans brothers. I don't know.
I
if
thought that was Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Eddie Murphy? No, Haunted Mansion.
Yeah,
No.
I thought it was Eddie Murphy.
I
Was
thought
Eddie
the
Murphy? I
original
thought it was the
one
Wayans
was Eddie
brothers.
Murphy, yeah.
I thought it was Eddie Murphy.
I mean, I guess I could be wrong, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure Eddie
thought it
Murphy
was-
started it, unless you were meaning like the Wayans brothers made it, but.
Oh, okay,
but
okay. You're probably right.
I do agree. This one looks like it's a more even keeled tone between like Disney, but like actually a little bit serious. Which obviously it's not going to be like crazy, scary or serious because it's still
I
a
mean, yeah,
Disney
it's
property.
still PG. It's still PG as well. So
Yeah. But A24's Talk to Me also comes out next week. So.
Yep.
and then the first week of August is Last Voyage of the Demeter, right?
I thought it was August 11th. I mean, it might be the first.
I saw one. I thought it was maybe it's 11th. Because I thought I saw one on the preview for it. So maybe you're right. Maybe it is the 11th. Because that's the next one after,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's August 11th.
Okay, yeah. Because I thought I saw one. I didn't know when it was. But yeah, it must be 11th then.
Yeah. We got the Meg 2, August 4th. Maybe that's what you're thinking of.
I didn't. I mean, I don't know release dates, but yeah, if you say so.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's the Meg 2 is August 4th. The Nun 2, September 8th.
Saw 10 just got announced for the end of September. I think the 20th.
Yeah, they pushed it up. That's weird. I guess they didn't want to go up against The Exorcist.
That's what I'm assuming because October has so many that they didn't want to compete, but I would probably rather see Saw 10.
Oh, God, any day of the week, especially because of where it is. I mean, from what I understand, this Saw movie takes place between Saw 1 and 2. So that's a time period I'm very interested in. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Well, it can't be any worse than Spiral.
No, nothing is worse than Spiral. Fuck that movie. Sorry, Chris Rock. I like you, but Spiral sucked. It looked pretty, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right. Yeah, let's get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the latest episode. We will be back in a week, or probably less than a week, since we recorded this episode later, with a new episode. So check us out then. But until then, let's say bye to our listeners.
Later.
Never wrestle with a gator.
Maybe
Or I
safer
should-
a CGI gator.
Well, I should actually say in this special case, later, Gator.
Ah!
Peace.